Everyone is saying that 2026 is the worst year to buy a house. But here's what they're not telling you. Some of the hottest and strongest housing markets in the country are right here in Bremerton, Washington. I'm Cassandra Lopez. I've been buying and selling real estate in Kitsap County for the past 20 years. And today I'm going to show you why 2026 might actually be a phenomenal year to buy real estate in Kitsap County. Look, I get why people think that 2026 is going to be a terrible year for homebuyers. The current 30-year fixed mortgage rates are like mid-sixes, but here's what the doom and gloom headlines aren't telling you about Bremerton, Washington. Year over year, home prices have been up since last year, with a median home price around $475. On average, homes are sitting on the market for about 3 weeks before they sell, sometimes with multiple offers. And because they're longer days on market than they were like in 2020 and 2021, buyers actually have the flexibility to be a little choosy, to negotiate on pricing and or concessions and get better terms for them instead of how it used to be, like giving away the farm when rates were like 2%. And there's one factor that most buyers completely miss that could save them thousands. The biggest misconception I see is that our buyers are waiting for the perfect market. So like essentially they're trying to time the market, if you've heard that term in relation to like the stock market. It's the same thing in real estate that people try to do as well. They think that if they wait another year, rates will come down, I'll be able to afford a house. What they're not factoring in is that as soon as rates come down even a little bit, buyers are going to flood the market and inflate those home prices right back up. So if you wait even just 1 year, you could be paying 5 to 10% more for the same house, depending on what the rates are doing and what the inventory looks like at that time. Mortgage rates are expected to ease by the end of the year. They've been saying that for years now. Like it's kind of, I'll believe it when I see it. As far as I've seen, they've gone back up this year. So they're predicting, maybe a 0.5 point drop around 6% by the end of the year, which 0.5%, that's not insignificant. That's significantly changed your monthly payment. And it might be enough to get those home buyers off the fence and back into the market, in which you would have more competition. So here in Bremerton, the average home price is hovering around $470, $475, which has risen 1.5 points-ish year over year since last year. So while you're waiting for the perfect market conditions, you could end up paying more for the same house. The smart buyers I work with focus on monthly affordability, and they plan to hold their home for 7 to 10 years. Because here's where the math really matters. Buying a $475,000 house now, with rates being what they are, or you wait a year and maybe that home is like $500,000 next year with a better rate, you can't do a clawback on the pricing. So if you lock in today's price, you can always refi later when rates come down, but you can't do a clawback on the purchase price. You've paid what you've paid and that's it. So you're better off buying right now. But here's where it gets interesting. Yes, mid-sixes is kind of high for a rate compared to 2020 when rates were like 2.25. Everyone and their family was in the market buying a house. There was tons of buyers, tons of competition. If you were buying a house at that time, you remember there were 10 and 12 offers for every home within 6 hours of it being listed. It was totally bananas. But historically, mid-sixes for an interest rate is relatively low and maybe a little bit good compared to like the 1980s when rates were like 18%. Does anybody remember those days? Right now, the median household income in Bremerton is about $78,000 a year, which puts you right in that comfortable affordability spot for a $475,000 home versus larger metros like Seattle. So if you're like working in Seattle, you're having a hard time affording a place over there, you have to earn like $200,000 plus a year just to qualify for an entry-level home in Seattle. So while like 1 or 2 offers on a home may sound competitive right now in today's market, it is a far cry from that 10 to 12 offer scenario we experienced just a few years ago. But homebuyers can't seem to forget those rates, and so they're paralyzed by the current rates. And what we really need to do is just wrap our head around the fact that the rates are what they are. So if you want to buy a house, this is what's going to cost you. So you have one of 2 options. You could buy now for a lower home price, rates being what they are. You could wait for rates to come down, pay more money for the house, but have a lower rate, because one of 2 things are going to happen. Either rates come down, home prices go up, rates go up, and home prices go down. So if you wait in either scenario, you get the short stick either way. So the best case scenario is to buy now at a lower price and then just refi later when the rates do come down eventually, because they will eventually. We just don't know when that is. We don't have a crystal ball. ball. My magic 8 ball says unlikely by the end of this year. So, I mean, who knows, right? That said, every buyer is different. Every buyer's scenario is different. And especially if you're relocating from out of state, you have a different set of criteria than local buyers do. So if you want to know exactly what to look for when buying a home in Bremerton, I put together this free 2026 home buyer guide that covers everything we talked about today, plus a whole lot more. So feel free to hop in the description and download your free copy. Now, here's the factor that changes everything that nobody seems to have a grasp on right now. And it's the opportunity that everybody's missing, because while it feels like a seller's market, while on paper it's a seller's market, we only have 1.57 months of inventory, which is clearly well into the seller's market territory. Buyers have the advantage with the higher interest rates because the rates are scaring buyers out of the market, which means as a home buyer, you have far less competition than you would if rates were lower. So while the inventory is low, buyers still have a really good advantage in terms of being able to find a house that works for them on their timeline and being able to negotiate on pricing and or concessions or buy downs or something like that. Kitsap's inventory has been staying steady for the past 5 or 6 months ago until the last 2 weeks. We had a huge bump, probably around 100 units or so countywide for spring market that finally showed up. And the average days on market has slowly been trickling down. Last year, it was around 70. The market was really kind of flat last year. Long days on market, buyers really were not very active. And now it's down to around 3 weeks. I like to tell my home sellers, give it 14 to 21 days before we see any major activity and or offers. The signals that the market's waking up after the holidays, that everybody was just kind of waiting for some good inventory to hit the market. We do have a lot more to choose from right now, including several new construction communities that are presenting plenty of opportunity to the marketplace. Keep in mind that all of them are likely going to be pre-sales, which means they're not going to be ready to move in for 3 to 6 to 8 months, depending on what builder and what stage of the process they're in. So while we count those as inventory, we kind of don't count those as inventory because they're not move-in ready. So if you're in the market to buy something right now and live in something right now, we're looking at resales. So just to recap, while rates are a little bit high and buyer demand is a little bit low, if you are in the market to buy a home, it means that you have the advantage because you have very limited competition. And depending on the home, you may be able to secure a home under list price, maybe with some concessions, maybe with a rate buy down. There are all kinds of opportunities for a home buyer right now. So please, please, please don't let the interest rates scare you. This is a magic opportunity if you are in the market to buy a home. And here's what separates the successful 2026 home buyers from the rest. And that is they have local area market experts helping them through the process. This video is all about market timing, whether you should time the market, whether you should not. When is the best time to buy a home? When you are ready. So if you're ready to buy a home, please reach out to me, give me a call, give me a text, shoot me an email. If you want advice from somebody who's been living and working in Bremerton for 26 years, having bought and sold real estate for the last 20, and this is my job, I would say that's a fair amount of market expertise. We can strategize based on your budget, your needs, your location, your commute, all of these things that matter to you, and find the best home for your situation. So is 2026 the worst year to buy a home? For unprepared buyers who are trying to wait for the perfect conditions? Maybe. For smart buyers who understand these factors matter, 2026 could be the opportunity of a lifetime.